Hello and welcome to the Paul White Show. You know, spring is just around the corner and I'm excited today. We have an in-studio guest and we're going to take a short commercial break and we're going to be back talking about some things that are going on at the County Extension Agency. So don't touch that dial, call a friend, tell them to turn on the Paul White Show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hello once again and welcome back to the Paul White Show. We took a short commercial break and we're back. I did say we had an in-studio guest and I'm excited. It's my first show with Matthew McKernan from the Sedgwick County Extension Agency. And Matt, I usually do the shows with Bob now, but he went on, and I understand that you took Bob's place.
Yes, I did. I've been at the County Extension Office for about 2 years now.
Okay.
And covering all things horticulture, especially the ornamental side,
Right.
so trees and shrubs,
Right.
flowers, grasses.
Well, it's my first official welcome you aboard, I guess you might say.
Well, thank you, Paul.
And glad to have you here today. What's going on at the County Extension Agency? We've been out of touch for a short while. I know things changes constantly out there, classes and stuff that they offer for the public. What's going on?
It does. We're well into spring now, and so a lot of our big horticulture events are starting off. One of the next ones we have coming up is our Youth Lawnmower Clinic, and that one is Wednesday, March 22nd. And this is really aimed at kids kind of in the 5th through 9th grades,
Okay.
and really trying to get them to be a little bit better educated when it comes to taking care of lawns and also being safe when they do it. That way they can kind of run their own landscaping or lawn mowing business, do it safely, and make a little money for school, college, whatever they're saving up for.
It's a lot of them that try to go out in the summer and mow lawns and stuff, and I don't know that we as parents give them quite all that they need to go out and do that, you know. So
Yeah.
with that said, injuries sometimes occur because they're not well educated on what they need to be doing. So this class, how long is the class?
The class is either a morning or an afternoon session, so only a couple of hours. And we're going to cover anything from mower maintenance, what you need to do to take care of a lawnmower, how to be safe using it, using protective equipment, and then also covering the grass and other types of turf and how you would maintain each different type, depending on the lawn.
Okay, that ought to be pretty good there, because different type lawns you cut different heights and
Absolutely.
And are you going to get into the watering even to let them know if they got a client that asks them a couple of questions, you know?
Sure, we try to prepare the kids as much as we can, and we do get into some of the maintenance things like watering or fertilization, things like that too.
Well, good. So when is the deadline for, do they have to register, pre-register?
Yes,
it would be a deadline?
It'd be best if people could pre-register, and our registration deadline is March 20th.
Okay, March 20th.
Yeah, and it's only $15 to participate, and you'll get business cards that say you've taken the class and all kinds of cool things. It's well worth the money and really could be a very successful summer job for a lot of kids.
Right. So this is being held at the County Extension Agency.
Yes, it is being held at our office.
And to register, they just need to contact by phone or in person?
Either way, you can contact us by phone. Our phone number is 316-660-0100.
Okay.
Or you can visit our website and register online as well.
Okay.
And that's just sedgwick.ksu.edu. And over on the right-hand side, there'll be an events link, and you can just click on the event and register that way.
Oh, okay. That's simple enough, you know, to get them in there. So parents, I hope you heard all of that. It'll probably be on the screen too, so you can copy it down and register your kids. And even if they're not doing it or going to do it as a business or to raise some money around the house, they need to know that still at home, you know, doing it at home. I imagine most of them if they get into trouble, it's at home before they go out.
Probably so.
Right.
So.
Your parents will tell them to go out and mow the lawn and maybe turn their head or something happened and they don't know what's up. So the lawnmower class for youth at the County Extension Agency. Okay, what else is going on, Matt, out there?
Yeah, and our next big event after that is going to be Tree Festival.
Okay.
and that is the first Saturday of April, April 1st. And this is going to be a great event that focuses on everything trees.
Okay.
So anything from selecting the right types of trees for our area to picking out and pruning trees to introducing our new Arboretum map that we have
Okay.
as well. So lots of great speakers. There'll be talks throughout the morning, lots of different booths where you can come make some purchases, do a little shopping, but also pick up some good information on anything related to trees.
Okay, and that's April the 1st?
Yes, Saturday,
Okay,
April 1st.
Saturday, April the 1st.
Starts at 8 a.m. and goes through 1 p.m. It's free to the public, so you just
Okay.
have to stop by. No need to register, no need to pay. Just come on and
Oh, okay. Okay.
check it out.
Free.
Yes.
No lunch. You on your own.
There'll be some good food in the morning and
Right,
some good
okay.
bake sale
Okay,
things.
to get
but-
you started.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and that's the Tree Festival at the County Extension Agency
Yeah.
on April the 1st. It's time to be doing a little bit of something to your trees now, especially if you have fruit trees.
It is. Typically, late winter to early spring is going to be the ideal time to prune a lot of our trees, really to get them in the good shape for the rest of the year. And when it comes to fruit trees, to have better yields and things like that too. So typically we want to wait kind of to the late part of the winter or early spring so that a lot of the cold weather that we might experience through the winter months is past.
Right.
And that way we don't have to worry about as much winter injury on our trees. Because when we make pruning cuts on our trees, those open wounds take
Right.
time to heal. So it's going to be best to do it this time of year so that we limit the amount of damage or harm that we might do to our trees when pruning.
Okay. Even your fruit trees, even though, you know, in March sometime they're getting ready to bud out, but you need to put spray on them first for winter insects or scale that wintered over on them, dormant oil spray, and you need to get that on before they start blooming, right?
Yeah, and especially when it comes to fruit trees, there's some special
Right,
rules and
right,
things like that
right.
that are different than our ornamental trees.
Right.
And so, yeah, they will take a little bit extra care. And with fruit trees, some of the things we're worried about is making sure we're thinning out some of those flowers and things like that to have kind of the optimal yield. Because
right.
the more flowers you have, the more fruit you
More
have.
fruit, right.
But that often divides the tree's energy, so you may have smaller fruit.
Okay.
Rather than if you pruned out some of the fruit or flowers, you'd probably have a little bit larger fruit, which may be more ideal for most
I
people.
wonder why my peaches were small.
Yeah.
You know, we like to say, well, hey, I bought that tree. I want every peach it put on.
Absolutely. Peaches are my favorite, so I know exactly what you
Right.
mean.
So you had to thin them. All right, Matt, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back. We're visiting with Matt McKernan from the County Extension Agency. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Paul White Show. We're glad you tuned in today because I have a special guest from the County Extension Agency, Mark McKernan, and we've been talking about trees. The tree deal is coming up April the 1st at the County Extension Agency. It's absolutely free. You just got to show up and bring your pad and ask questions and write down answers. So how simple could that be? Okay, so we're back. Matt, I see you got some props here on the table. What do we have here today? What did you bring with you?
Yeah, brought a lot of things that are looking a little rough in the landscape. We've
Oh,
talked
are they?
about trees and
Right,
shrubs in the
right.
landscape, and this past winter, even though it was fairly mild overall, we are seeing a lot of damage on a lot of different types of plants, and it's had people really asking a
Right.
lot of questions. So really what it all boils down to is back in December, on December 18th, we had a really cold morning where it was negative 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And negative 10 degrees is really kind of the bottom of our cold hardiness, or what the minimum winter temperature that most of our plants are rated for in most of Kansas. And because we got to that bottom of that minimum temperature that a lot of our plants can handle, we started to see some dieback, some winter burn, some leaf drop, things like that on several different plants. One of the plants that people have asked the most about all spring long has been the blue Atlas cedar. And the blue Atlas cedar is typically an evergreen, so when it starts to turn other colors besides blue, green, or green, people really start to worry. And depending on where these plants were at, how protected they are, maybe up against the house, or how exposed they are in the middle of the yard, the symptoms can look a lot different. For the blue Atlas cedar, what a lot of people are seeing is kind of an overall browning, purpling, bronzing of the needles, especially when you start to get kind of into the interior needles.
Right.
Some of these are from our office, and some of them at our office aren't quite as badly damaged as some of them that a lot of people have in the landscape. You can see on a lot of these, the needles are about half brown, and they just are going to look a little rough for a little while. The good news is they probably didn't damage the buds as much as it did the needles. And so it's going to put out new growth, and it'll probably be okay, but it is going to take a little bit of time where they're looking a little rough still until they have a chance to kind of re-leaf out.
Recover. Yeah. So they'll drop those needles and hopefully they'll reoccur.
Yes, hopefully
and
so.
And green back up and get their bluish tone back to them again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For some people, the damage may be a little bit more severe, and so there probably will be a few that are lost in our area this spring that just don't have the ability to come back. But for most of them, they're probably going to be okay.
Right. We've also been awful dry winter, and we tend not to be reminded that we need the water, that they still need the moisture. You know, we're enjoying a mild winter, but the trees and the shrubs are not, because they don't have the water, the moisture content to survive the drought. So it's just like having an overheated summer, if you want to call it that,
Absolutely.
on them, as it is in winter. So it's just as bad. Sometimes winters can be more brutal on them than the summers actually are, because you tend to water more in the summertime than you do in the fall, you know, and all the winter months. So yeah, I imagine a lot of them are seeing, because I kind of slacked on it too. It'll be cold, and but still we need to get out and water them if it's not raining, you know.
We do, and that's probably a lot of contributing factors to this as well, because the root systems of trees and shrubs can suffer drought injury even during the winter months. So it's important to make sure that our plants have a little bit of moisture during the winter if we're not getting rains or snows, because especially things like evergreens, their needles are green all year long, and so they're always losing water all year, even during the winter months when we don't think about it as much.
Right. And it's a little less watering, but we don't think of it that way because of the cooler temperatures. You don't get all the evaporation. So a little water goes a long ways in the wintertime than it does in the summertime. So it ain't like you need to water every single day like we do in the summer months. So
absolutely. During dry periods of the year like this, maybe watering good once a week or so is typically enough.
All right, what else you got here?
Yeah, so another plant that we've seen a lot of winter injury on is euonymus. And euonymus is typically an evergreen or semi-evergreen shrub. It usually keeps its green leaves all year long, and is a really common shrub up against the house in our part of the world. And what we saw was with our euonymus, a lot of the leaves kind of freeze-dried that day and turned brown. And by this point in the year, a lot of them have fallen off, and so the plant looks really bare. And in addition to that, because of the cold temperatures, you're also seeing probably a little bit of dieback on the plant too. When you look at the stem, what we're ideally seeing on most of this euonymus is a green, healthy branch. But when you notice the tops or just the edges of the outside of the plant, a lot of those are looking actually really brown or kind of dried, and they're very, very brittle, easy to break off, and that's again part of that winter injury. For euonymus, they're going to be an active grower, so they're going to much better heal over from this kind of injury. But what it means for us this spring is that we're typically going to have to go in there, trim off some of the ends of the branches, and encourage that new growth from farther down in the plant to kind of fill in so that you don't even know the damage was there.
Oh, okay. Good tip.
Yeah.
On how to take care of them, get the dead out. When can we actually, what do I want to say, cut back a plant too early or too late?
Sure, there's better times to prune and better times not to prune. One of the biggest recommendations we have for when to prune is our saying, prune after the shrub is done blooming. So it's okay to prune most shrubs in the early spring just like you would a tree, and now would be a fine time to do that. But you have to be careful on things like forsythia, viburnums, some of those plants that are blooming right away in early spring. they put their flower buds on in the previous fall. So all winter long, those flower buds are just sitting there waiting for those spring temperatures to warm up to bloom. So you can still go ahead and prune them, but if you do, you have to keep in mind that things like lilac, forsythia, if you're pruning them off now before they bloom, you're actually cutting out this year's flowers. So the plant will be okay, but you're going to have less flowers to enjoy. So sometimes it's okay, and some people can handle a few less flowers for the overall health of the shrub, but don't be surprised if you do prune them now that you may have a few less flowers than you might have expected.
Right. Okay, Matt, we're going to take another short commercial break, and we'll be right back. We're visiting with Matt from the County Extension Agency. Don't go nowhere. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Paul White Show. We've been visiting with Matt from the County Extension Agency, and we got plenty of props today to show you visibly what's been going on. Matt's covered some trees and winter damage on them, and gave you some tips on what to do to get them recovered for the spring and the rest of the summer. Okay, Matt, I see now you got laying on the table one of the favorite trees of Kansas there.
It is. This is one of my favorite trees, and that's our eastern redbud. Okay. Most people recognize it in early spring when it's covered in purple flowers. And one of my favorites because of that. And not only is this tree beautiful, but it's also helpful for homeowners to know, kind of as your nature's cue, on when to do some of the maintenance to our turf grass or lawns.
Oh, okay.
Typically, early spring is when we're going to apply pre-emergence to our yard to kind of prevent weeds from coming up later in the year. And typically, if you were to look at a calendar, around April 1st is when we would do that. But as you know, Mother Nature doesn't necessarily follow our calendar, and these last few weeks have been a great example of that. And so really what we're looking for in nature is natural signs that indicate that this is a time of year that we should be doing something. And typically when these red buds are in full bloom and you see all of those purple flowers, that's typically the indication that we need to go ahead and put down our pre-emergence in our lawn so that we can prevent weeds like crabgrass or some of those other weeds from germinating. They work by being put down before the weeds start, so they're actually keeping the weeds from growing once the seeds try to start to germinate. And so typically products like Barricade or Dimension are going to be the best choices for lawns because they're going to give you season-long control. You apply them now and they're going to give you protection throughout the rest of the summer. And if we put down protection too early in the year, often we're going to lose protection on the later part of the year. And that's why waiting for the red bud to bloom is really ideal because that's going to give us protection the longest point of the year when the weeds are most actively growing.
Yeah, it's crabgrass preventers and things like that. A lot of people be asking, "Why I got a lot of weeds in my lawn this year?" If they missed the period between the buds.
Yep.
That's what causes more weeds to accumulate in your lawn and stuff. So that's a good tip, using nature to warn you or let you know when it's time to put down some crabgrass preventer and pre-emergency like that. Matt, we're going to talk about some vegetables a little bit. You're welcome to stay right there. Just butt in where you fit in at. How about some cold crops? It's time that you can plant cold crops. I have some collard plants, broccoli, a mix of lettuce, and we also have spinach. And you can plant strawberries this time of year. It's if you got your strawberry bed worked up with some cotton ball compost in it and your soil ready, you should have your garden soil pretty near ready. If not, you ought to be working in it to get it ready. And you need to put your additives in there. I get a lot of questions about, do I need to put fertilizer down when I'm tilling my soil so that it be some nutrients in there for the soil to do? Well, yeah, you could put like a garden special in there if you want to lightly fertilize with that. And once the plants get going, you can side dress and to help them if your soil is not up to par. You cannot just look at soil and tell if it's rich soil. I might look rich too, but I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? So you can't look at soil because it's got a rich, dark color to it, the right contents of moisture in it to tell if it's good. So what you need to do is get your sample, take it to the county extension agency, let them run a test, tell them what you're trying to grow in that particular soil area there, and let them run a test on it, and they can tell you the nutrients that you need to add and what percentage of them you need to add to be successful in gardening or even your lawn too. You need to get random samples. Don't just get a sample out of one little hole. You need about, I'd say a pint jar full of dirt. So you want to get it from random areas so you're not just sampling just right there in that little circle, small area where you got your sample from. Mm-hmm. Also, it's a good time to put in perennials. You can plant perennials now because they are hardy enough to take the cold that we're getting right now. You'll have to wait a little bit on your annuals. The average frost date for the state of Kansas is around the 20th of April. So you'll have to wait a little bit on your annuals before you start putting them in. Now, herbs can be put in. They are perennials. Most of them are perennials. You can plant them. Right now at the store, I have an excellent selection of herbs. It seems though every year people are looking for different herbs to plant in the herb garden or replenish them. They had them before and they've gotten, where they're not producing anymore. So I have a good selection of herbs right now, like oregano, rosemary, there's lemon balm, sage, I got dills, I got catgrass, I got catnip, I got a bunch of herbs, and the seeds just arrived, so they're packaged for this year, and you shouldn't have any problems with them germinating and growing. Also, we increased our perennial flower choices this year. A lot of people are wanting perennial flowers because we're getting in the habit that we don't want to plant them every year, But I would suggest saving a little room for annuals to give you a chance to change up on some colors or experiment with some new annual colors that comes out every year. They're started developing different colors, of annuals and all this type of plants for you to plant in your landscape. Matt, I've had fun visiting with you.
Me too.
Today, and hopefully we've helped the viewing audience to get started with a healthy and prosperous spring and summer out in the lawn. And I'd like to thank you for coming in today, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we enjoyed that, Matt. All right, you've been watching the Paul White Show. We thank you for watching it, and we ask you to tune in again next week right here, same channel.